Here we have a AP Chemistry free response question from 1975 where copper and sulfur are reacting to make copper 1 sulfide. And for this reaction, delta H, delta G, and delta S, that's enthalpy, free energy, and entropy. Those changes are all negative, so which substance would predominate in an equilibrium mixture? We don't have any specific numbers, so this is kind of an explanation problem. At 298 Kelvin, explain how you drew your conclusion about the predominant substance present at equilibrium. Why must a mixture of copper and sulfur be heated in order to make the copper 1 sulfide? Well, let's think of these things in terms of the favorability of the forward reaction. Negative for this means it's exothermic. That favors the forward reaction. You don't have to put any energy in. In fact, it liberates energy. Delta G being negative is also favorable. That indicates a feasible and spontaneous process. Delta S is negative. That's not so good because that means you are getting more organized, and it certainly seems like you are. However, this is typically as much as 1,000 times lower than the other values measured typically in calories, these in kilocalories. Therefore, the forward reaction is favored for those reasons. I would say it's thermodynamically favored for 2 of the 3 reasons, and the third one is a very small contributor, and we are done. Explain how you drew your conclusion, la la la. And then another question. Why must a mixture of copper and sulfur be heated in order to produce the copper 1 sulfide? Now, my answer would be spontaneous does not mean it occurs just without you doing anything. You still would have to overcome the activation energy. That's one possible answer. You might also notice that these are both solids at 25 degrees Celsius, and you're going to have lousy surface area. I suppose you could grind them into the world's finest powder. It's still not going to be great in terms of them mixing. So melting them would be the way to go. Let's see how that compares to their answer. And here we are. The answer is copper 1 sulfide is favored. The forward reaction involves, now here, read this. The forward reaction involves bond formation is therefore exothermic. Find delta H is less than 0. They didn't ask you to explain why delta H is 0. They want you to explain, given that delta H is 0, why this is negative. So I consider this extraneous information. Similarly, the forward reaction produces 1 molecule from 3 atoms and therefore decreases in entropy. True, wonderful, but irrelevant. They didn't ask it. They tell you about the change in entropy. Now here it gets relevant. Since delta G is less than 0 and delta G equals delta H minus T, T delta S, this reaction is spontaneous at low temperatures. Well said. In fact, a little better than what I did because they related it to how it would work at temperature, because the temperature would have to be very high for this to overcome the delta H. Nicely done. The mixture must be heated because both reactants are solids, and they will react only when the copper atoms and the sulfur atoms collide, and an infrequent occurrence in the solid state. They only provided this reason that says, hey, you got time issues, right? Of course, these things are true regardless of time, so that's not necessarily the world's greatest question. It's a nice practical addition. I would point out that you may need to overcome the activation energy, and I believe that is true, even if something is spontaneous. Okay, that is a free response question from 1975, AP Chemistry.